So last time we discussed from Sri Isopnishad, and we saw how Isopnishad deals with the subject matter which is directly related to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is one of the 108 Upanishads, and we covered the first three verses which deals with proprietorship and the laws of God, how everything belongs to the Supreme Lord, and we should only accept things which are set aside for our quota. Then we also discussed the vision of Mahabhagavat, how a pure devotee sees the world, everything in relation with the Supreme Lord. So this we discussed and saw in the last class. Now we will go in the further two sections of Sri Isopnishad, which is how there is the absolute knowledge and relative knowledge, how there is absolute worship and relative worship. Many times people say that, everything is one. You can follow any path, you can go to any temple, you can worship a tree or a plant or a goat or a cat or a statue. Do whatever you want. Anyway, everyone goes to the same place. But Isopnishad denies that. Isopnishad talks about the absolute form of worship and the relative form of worship. Relative means material, in relation to the material world. And then the last three verses deals with prayers of a pure devotee at the time of death. What should be our prayers to the Supreme Lord during the final exam of the life? So that is the last part of these scriptures. So we are starting with the absolute and relative. We are familiar with these words from Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna told many times how his spiritual world is absolute, whereas in material world, everything is relative. Where in material world, everything is temporary. So Isopnishad talks about absolute knowledge and relative knowledge. Now, the way it is presented here is very interesting. Let us read and understand. Very interesting. Andham tamah pravishyanti ye vidwan upasate. Let's read that. Usha Mataji, can you read?
Yes, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. Those who engage in the culture of nonsense activities shall enter into the darkest region of ignorance. Worth is still of those engaged in the culture of so-called knowledge.
So you can see how it is presented. Those who are in niscience, those who are in ignorance, they will go to darkest region of ignorance. But worse are those who are in so-called knowledge. Who can explain this? Anyone?
Babu, you are talking about the Mayavadis and the demigod worshippers?
Yeah, that will come. Here knowledge means so-called material knowledge. Here knowledge means material vidya, jada vidya. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, jada vidya jat mayar vaibhav jeev ke karoye ghada. This material knowledge makes us donkey. Like donkey takes load of the world, in the same way material knowledge makes us more and more entangled in the material sense gratification. Therefore, Isopnishad is telling those who are engaged in nescience, those who are in avidya, they will go to darkest region of ignorance. That means hell. But worse are those who are thinking they are so educated, and as a result of it, they are becoming more and more oblivious to the devotional service of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, their condition is even more precarious. Diya Mataji, can you read this quote?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Modern civilization has advanced considerably in the field of mass education, but the result is that people are more unhappy than ever before because of the stress placed on material advancement to the exclusion of the most important part of life, the spiritual aspect. The advancement of learning by a godless people is as dangerous as a valuable jewel on the hood of a cobra. A cobra decorated with a valuable jewel is more dangerous than one not decorated. Mantra 9 purport.
See, 100 years back, nobody heard things like psychiatrist, depression, or blood pressure, things like that. But now everyone is undergoing all this stress. So Prabhupada is saying that so-called knowledge, material knowledge, has made us more and more into stress. And Prabhupada is comparing it with a jewel on a cobra's head. If this decorated cobra, you will be attracted to it. But as you will go near it, it will bite. So it's more dangerous. Otherwise, nobody is attracted to snakes. But if it's jewel on the hood of a cobra, somebody may get attracted to the jewel, but as it goes near to the snake may bite. This is material advancement. It promises that it will make us more and more happy, but in return, it will make more and more miserable. Therefore, yes, Venudhari Prabhu, please read.
Yes, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. A godless civilization directed toward the so-called advancement of education is more dangerous than a civilization in which the masses of people are less educated.
We have seen in villages, people are less sinful. They live a simple life, they sleep by sunset, they rise up early in the morning. But in cities, it's like 12 midnight, you go, you see everyone is awake doing sinful activities. So modern civilization, it claims to be more educated and advanced, but it's making people more and more sinful. So those who are in ignorance, yes, they may go to the darkest region of ignorance. But those who are taking all this materialistic education, they are learning more refined ways to do sense gratification. And that's how making more and more sinful endeavors. Let's read the next verse. Chetan Prabhu, can you read?
Yes, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. The wise have explained that one result is derived from the culture of knowledge, and that a different result is obtained from the culture of the science.
So the wise means the learned men understand that one who is in nescience, he will be entrapped. But one who is in real culture of knowledge, now here knowledge is spiritual knowledge. If somebody is in proper knowledge, spiritual knowledge, then one will get free from the bondage of material entanglement. So both results are different. People sometimes say that, oh, either you go on a spiritual path or you go on material path, ultimately you should be happy. It's all one. But it's not one. The results are different. One who will try to advance in a spiritual path, he'll become free, he will become more peaceful and happy, both in this life and in the next. But those who are in the culture of nescience, those who are in the culture of material entanglement, they are making their life complicated now and in future as well. What is real Vidya? What is real knowledge? Prabhupada is describing the aspect of real knowledge. Do you remember 13th chapter? There were divine and demonic qualities, and there 18 elements of knowledge were described, starting with this one. One should become a perfect gentleman and learn to give proper respect to others. Amanitvam, adhambitvam, without any false prestige, pridelessness. So all these qualities of knowledge which we studied in 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, these are real knowledge. So if one is claiming that he is a very learned person, he should possess those qualities described in the Bhagavad Gita. But those who don't carry this knowledge, they are technically in the mode of ignorance, and they go to darkest region of ignorance. Keshav Priya Mataji, can you read this?
Yes, Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Vidyaya, culture of knowledge. In the modern society, even a boy thinks himself self-sufficient and pays no respect to elderly men due to the wrong type of education being imparted in our university. In our universities, boys all over the world are giving their elders headaches.
So we can see the result of
Mantra
so-called knowledge. What is so-called knowledge? People are not becoming humble. There is a saying in Vedic literature, Vidya dadati vinayam. Knowledge should make one humble, as told in Bhagavad Gita also by Krishna in 13th chapter 8th verse. Amanitvam. But modern society, they claim that they are educating big subjects, big degrees, but people are becoming more and more arrogant. People are becoming more and more self-centered. People are becoming more and more sense gratifiers. And therefore, society is becoming more and more full of stress and anxiety. Therefore, Isopnishad tells what one should do, what one should not do in Mantra 11. Devadev Prabhu, please read.
Krishna Prabhuji. Mantra 11. Only one can learn the process of omniscience and that of transcendental knowledge side by side, can transcend the influence of repeated birth and death, and enjoy the full blessings of immorality.
So what person should do? He should know both transcendental path and material path. He should know both side by side. Then he can transcend the repeated birth and death. Why is that? Why should we know about material world? Okay, spiritual world we understood that we should know spiritual science, but why we should know material world?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dhanvat ma'am. Prabhu, we should know material world because until and unless we don't know that the material world is full of miseries and we are always facing one problem or the other, one after the other. And until we experience that, we will not move towards or incline towards spiritual life.
Yeah, very good point. Prabhupada used to say the best person, the best learner is who learns by hearing. So if we understand material world is full of miseries, we will be more enthusiastic to practice our spiritual life. Bharat Krishna Prabhu.
Well, that we have to know where we are, exactly what is our position.
Yes.
From there, what we have to do, because if you don't know where your position is, it's very difficult to start moving.
Exactly. When you want to move towards a destination, first thing is where you are. So we have to be careful. We should have healthy fear of Maya. We should understand which things can trap us, which thing can distract us, how we should not be dealing with the clutches of material world. And then the spiritual aspect, we should also understand in depth by doing our sadhana bhakti. So both are important. Vidyamcha, both are important. Therefore, Prabhupada made a system where we can understand both the knowledge. You can see in Prabhupada's purport, they are never oriented just to give one-sided knowledge. Prabhupada never did that. Prabhupada always encouraged that we understand both aspects. So in purports of Srila Prabhupada, you will see that Prabhupada is telling about material world, how material world is dangerous. And Prabhupada is also telling about beauty of the spiritual world. So Prabhupada is focused on both aspects. In all his preaching, in all his purports, he gave in such a way that we understand the glory of spiritual world. At the same time, we understand the glory of the futility of material world. Let's see from quotation from Srila Prabhupada's purport. Moksharupi Prabhu, can you read?
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranams. Shri Isopnishad instructs us not to make one-sided attempts to win the struggle for existence. This does not mean that all activities for the maintenance of the body should be stopped. There is no question of stopping activities. Just as there is no question of wiping out one's temperature altogether when trying to recover from a disease, to make the best use of bad bargain is the appropriate expression. The great sages and saints of India have attempted to do this by a balanced program of spiritual and material knowledge.
So Prabhupada is giving example that suppose you are in fever and you have high temperature. Now, getting rid of fever does not mean that you take out all temperature altogether and you freeze yourself. No, there has to be balance of temperature. In the same way, yes, we are in material world. We have set of duties, we have set of engagements, we have set of liabilities. We have to take care of them. Whatever is needed, we will do take care of those responsibilities. At the same time, we understand the value of our spiritual journey. Therefore, previous Gurukuls, Guru used to teach all kind of knowledge to his disciples. If you come to Ujjain, we will take you to Sandipani Ashram, where Krishna and Balaram studied. And you will see 64 colors, 64 qualities which Sandipani Muni taught Krishna in 64 days. And you will see everything, like simple things like making a garland to big things like fighting battles. Everything Sandipani Muni taught Krishna and Balaram. So these gurus used to teach all kind of knowledge, material and spiritual, so that person can lead his life in a balanced way and he can also practice his Krishna consciousness. So that is the meaning that Isopnishad is telling here, that we should have both knowledge of Vidya and Avidya to overcome the clutches of birth and death. So in the 3 verses, Isopnishad talks about knowledge, absolute and relative. Now in 3 verses, same aspect will be covered in the terms of worship. We have just seen in 3 verses that how one who is in culture of nations will go to the darkest region of ignorance. But one who is in so-called knowledge of material world, he will enter into deeper darkness. Then 10th verse told us how culture of knowledge is different from culture of nations. Therefore, a proper practitioner of spiritual life should know both nations and transcendental knowledge side by side. This we have just seen. Next 3 verses deal exactly with same subject in relation to worship. Same, exactly same verses. What 12th verse talks about? Those who worship demigods are going to enter into the mode of ignorance, darkness. But those who are worshipper of impersonal aspect of the Lord, they will go to deeper darkness of ignorance. Verse 13 tells us how there is difference between worshipping the Supreme Lord and worshipping the different energies of Lord in the form of demigods and impersonal aspect. 14th verse tells that one should know how to worship the Supreme Lord as well as dealing with the temporary material creation. So we'll see them one by one. Mantra 12. Namrasita Mataji, can you read?
Those who are engaged in the worship of demigods enter into the darkest region of ignorance, and still more so do the worshippers of the impersonal absolute.
So those who are worshipping the demigods, they enter into darkest region of ignorance. That means they remain in the material world. Demigod worshippers, as we studied in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, those who are alpamedhasam, the less intelligent, they worship demigods. And the fruits given by demigods are material. So the worshipper remains in material world itself. But those who are worshipping impersonal absolute, impersonal aspect of the Lord, 12th chapter, you remember 5th verse of 12th chapter, Krishna said, Klesh adiktaras tesham avyakta asakta chetasam. Those who are worshipping the impersonal aspect of Lord, they will be more in trouble because they claim themselves to be one with the impersonal Lord, and then they end up in hell, offending the incarnations of the Lord. Generally, impersonal is they offend incarnations, they offend the Archa Vigra, deities of the Lord. They say these deities are material, Lord's incarnations are material. So they end up in hell. So demigod worshippers, they will remain in material world. Impersonal worshippers, they go deeper down in hell. Jagat Ambika Mataji, can you read?
Hare Krishna. Sri Isopnishad points out that one who worships the demigods and attains to their material planets still remains in the darkest region of the universe. The whole universe is covered by gigantic material elements. It is just like a coconut covered by a shell and half filled with water. Since its covering is airtight, the darkness within is dense, and therefore the sun and the moon are required for illumination.
So Prabhupada is explaining that why this world is called as darkest region of ignorance, because this whole shell of a universe doesn't allow any light from a spiritual world to come inside. And this patch of material world, material universe, is illuminated by sun, moon, and other illumination. So therefore, this world is called avidya, the world of darkness. Yes, Namrasita Mataji.
So, Prabhu, as you mentioned, the impersonalists, they go to the hell. But earlier we had known that they go to the Brahmajyoti.
Yes, so I told two things. One is there are positive impersonalists which are called Brahmavadis. They are called Brahmavadis. They are positive impersonalists. So they don't offend incarnations of the Lord. They don't offend deities of Lord, but their knowledge of Supreme Lord is limited to the impersonalist. So they go to Brahmajyoti. But those who are second category negative impersonalists, they are called Mayavadis. Now Mayavadis, they say Lord's form is Maya. They say that Lord's deities are material. They say that his activities and incarnations is material. So they end up in hell. So even those Brahmavadis, positive impersonalists, they are going to the Brahmajyoti. Our acharyas have called as Narkayate, Kaivalya Narkayate. It's like hell, because there is no service to the Supreme Lord. So our acharyas have called even Brahmajyoti is hell. We'll study that in Prabhupada's quotation, that even that is hell because there is no service to the Supreme Lord. Let's see, I think this next quotation by Srila Prabhupada. Yeah. Okay. Sachidananda Prabhu, can you read?
The ignorant religionist and the manufacturer of so-called incarnations who directly violate the Vedic injunctions are liable to enter into the darkest region of the universe, because they mislead those who follow them. These impersonalists generally pose themselves as incarnations of God to foolish persons who have no knowledge of Vedic wisdom. If such foolish men have any knowledge at all, it is more dangerous in their hands than ignorance itself.
So Prabhupada is telling one more aspect to it, that so-called pseudo-religionists, they claim to be incarnations and they mislead many others. So that is another reason that why these impersonalists go to darkest region of hell, because they are misleading many other souls who can go closer to Krishna otherwise. So Devi Mataji, can you read this quote?
Yes, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. These rogues are the most dangerous elements in human society. They escape punishment by the law of the state. They cannot, however, escape the law of the Supreme, who has clearly declared in the Gita that envious demons in the garb of religious propagandists shall be thrown into the darkest region of hell.
So according to the modern state laws, being impersonalist leader, claiming yourself to be incarnation may not be an offense or a sin, but they cannot escape the law of the Supreme Lord, where Lord will definitely punish them, as Krishna himself told in 16th chapter of Gita, that he perpetually put these demonic people into the darkest region of hell. Okay. Kripalu Keshavi Mataji, can you read this quote?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Sri Isopnishad confirms that these pseudo-religionists are heading toward the most obnoxious place in the universe after the completion of the spiritual master business, which they conduct simply for sense gratification.
Prabhupada is saying they are doing a nice business to claim themselves as spiritual masters, but as per Isopnishad, they will end up in darkest region of hell. Therefore, these results are different. If you're worshipping the Supreme Lord, that is different. And if you are just worshipping who is not supreme, that result is different. Moksharupi Prabhu, can you read?
Yeah, Prabhu. It is said that one result is obtained by worshipping the supreme cause of all causes, and that another result is obtained by worshipping what is not supreme. All this is heard from the undisturbed authorities, who clearly explained it. Text 13.
So next time when people tell you Yathamat Tathapat, follow whatever you want and you will go to same destination, you can show them this verse. That no, all paths don't lead to same destination. Here Isopnishad is clearly telling one who is supreme, when you worship him, that is different. And one who is not supreme, if you worship them, that is giving different result. Therefore, what a learned person should do, Prabhupada is going to tell that. Yeah. Arun Charan Prabhu, can you read?
Pretenders has increased considerably, and it has become a problem for the pure devotees of the Lord to save the masses of people from the unholy propaganda of these pretenders and pseudo-incarnations.
Materialistic people, they don't do that much damage as much these pseudo-incarnations do, as much the pretenders of spiritual culture they do, because they mislead people on spiritual path. Materialistic people, they are misleading in a different way. But these so-called pseudo sadhus, pseudo incarnations, they are cheating religious minded people, which is even worse. So therefore that they make the preaching task more difficult. So what a devotee should do is described in text 14. What devotee should do? Okay, who will read? Sashti Mataji, can you read this?
Yes, Babuji. Hare Krishna. One should know perfectly the personality of Godhead Shri Krishna and his transcendental
Your connection is
name,
not good.
form, very material
Your connection is
creation
not
with
good.
its temporary demigod. Man, one knows this presupposes death and the ephemeral cosmic manifestation with it. And in the eternal kingdom of God, he enjoys his eternal life of bliss and knowledge.
So the Isopnishad is concluding this theme by telling that one should know perfectly the Supreme Personality of Godhead Shri Krishna, his transcendental name, form, qualities, pastimes, as well as his temporary material creation, which is consistent of demigods, men, animals. When you know both of them, you can surpass death and clutches of this cosmic manifestation and go back to Krishna and his eternal abode. So one should know that he has to worship the Supreme Lord, and one should also see the material world, people in different species in relation to Krishna. That how Krishna is the source of all material elements, how Krishna is the source of all jivatmas, how Krishna is the source of all species of life. That is the perfect understanding. And when one goes through this spiritual understanding, one can surpass death and one can enter the supreme abode of the Lord. Having said this, now next 4 verses teaches us what a devotee should pray to the Supreme Lord after having this understanding, after understanding Krishna as the Supreme Lord, after understanding the material world is a expansion of his energy, how a devotee should lead his life, and at the final stage of his life, when he is leaving this world, what should be his prayer? So that is described in next 4 verses. They are the, I would say, heart and soul of this scripture. This last 4 verses, especially the last 2 verses. So let us read them very nicely. These prayers are very important. Even you can recite them in your daily, after chanting, you can recite these prayers, very nice prayers. Sachi Maharani Mataji, can you read translation to text 15?
Your will, Rohit, which is written here or in the book?
Yeah, from the book. From the book.
O my Lord, sustainer of all that lives, your real face is covered by your dazzling effulgence. Kindly remove that covering and exhibit yourself to your pure devotee.
So a devotee is praying that, my dear Lord, Hiranyamaya Patrena. Hiranya means gold. Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu. Hiranya means gold. Hiranyamaya Patrena means, Lord, you are covered, your lotus face is covered by golden effulgence. Please remove that effulgence. I want to see your beautiful face. Mukham means beautiful face. I want to see your beautiful face. So please remove this effulgence. So see, people say that Lord is impersonal. If Lord is impersonal, how devotee is requesting here that Lord, please remove your impersonal aspect and let me see your face. Mukham, face means personal. So Lord has to be personal. And this is not Bhagavatam, this is Isopnishad. Impersonalists also accept this book, but then also they misinterpret it. Let us read this quote from Srila Prabhupada. Usha Mataji, please read.
Yes, Prabhuji. The living entity should never be considered the all-powerful supreme truth. If he were the supreme, he would not need to pray to the Lord to remove his dazzling cover so that the living entity could see his real face.
The Prabhupada is saying that this is one of the reasons why we are not supreme. By our own endeavor, we cannot force Lord that show me, I want to see you. No, we have to humbly pray that, my dear Lord, I want to see your lotus face. So please remove this dazzling cover of impersonalism so that I can see your lotus face. Next verse is the same prayer, little more elaborate. Bharat Krishna Prabhu, can you read? Please unmute.
O my Lord, O primeval philosopher, maintainer of the universe, O regulating principle, destination of the pure devotees, well-wisher of the progenitors of mankind, please remove the effulgence of your transcendental rays so that I can see your form of bliss. You are the eternal, supreme personality of Godhead, like unto the sun as am I.
So what he is saying that, my dear Lord, I want to see your form of bliss. I want to see your transcendental form. I want to experience that beauty. So please remove this effulgence which is covering your beautiful, beautiful form. This very nice prayer. Prabhupada is elaborating. Here is that point where he's quoting impersonal Brahmajyoti as hell. Anupama Mataji, can you read?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. The demons who are killed by Krishna, they are immediately transferred to this Brahman effulgence. So just imagine the place which is given to the enemies of Krishna is that very covetable things.
Prabhupada is saying people want to go to Brahmajyoti, but Krishna sends his enemies to Brahmajyoti. So is it a very desirable place to go? No, devotees will never want to go to that place. They want place where they can serve Krishna. And this is the final prayers which a devotee is praying to Krishna. Very, very beautiful prayer. You can read from the book. Chetan Prabhu, can you read from the book, text 17?
Let this temporary body be burned to ashes, and let the air of life be merged with the totality of air. Now, O my Lord, please remember all my sacrifices, and because you are the ultimate beneficiary, please remember all that I have done for you.
So now as I am leaving this body, let my body perish, my Lord. My intelligence will only remember your lotus feet. Whatever I have done, please remember all my sacrifices. Lord will anyway remember all sacrifices of his devotees. But a devotee is requesting Lord that, Lord, whatever I have done for you, whatever I have done to come to you, please remember that endeavor. I am failing to remember you, but you remember me. This is devotee's prayer. That in this condition, when I am leaving my body, I cannot remember you, but you please remember me, whatever I have done, so that I can come back to you. Prabhupada is giving a very hope-giving petition here. Moksharupi Prabhu, can you read?
Yeah, Prabhu. Even if at the time of death, a devotee does not remember his service to the Lord does not forget him. This prayer is given to remind the Lord of the devotee's sacrifices. But even if there is no such reminder, the Lord does not forget the service rendered by his pure devotee.
This is the question asked by Lakshmi to Lord Varadev. She asked, my dear Lord, if your devotee worships you throughout his life and he, for some reason, due to bodily discomfort, due to some accident or something, if he fails to remember you at the time of death, what will happen? Lord Varadev assures Mother Lakshmi, Lord Varadev tells that at that time, I will remember such devotee. So Prabhupada is telling that although devotee is praying here that, my dear Lord, please remember whatever I have done for you. I want to come back to you. But even if there is no such reminder, Lord still does not forget any service rendered by his pure devotee. Lord makes sure that he remembers that devotee and brings him back to his transcendental abode. Therefore, this Isopnishad is it's a small book, only 18 verses. It's smaller than a chapter of Bhagavad Gita. But if we see that this small book has so much potency to bring us nearer to the Supreme Lord. This is the last verse, final prayer a devotee is making to the Supreme Lord. Keshav Priya Mataji, can you read this?
Hare Krishna. O my Lord, as powerful as fire, O omnipotent one, now I offer you all obeisances, falling on the ground at your feet. O my Lord, please lead me on the right path to reach you. And since you know all that I have done in the past, please free me from the reactions to my past sins, so that there will be no hindrance to my progress.
Devotee is praying to Lord that, Lord, I am offering myself to you now, completely surrender to you. Please lead me to the right path. I want to reach to you. I want to come back to you. So Lord may ask that, what have you done to come to me? You have performed many sinful activities. So then devotee is saying that, Lord, you know my history, you know my past. I am very sinful. But you promised in Bhagavad Gita that if we surrender, you forgive all sinful reactions. So please cleanse all my past record and let me come back to you. So these prayers we can offer even on daily basis, that, oh my Lord, whatever I have done, now I am taking your shelter. Please allow me to practice pure devotional service. So that way, devotee is always praying to the mercy of the Supreme Lord. He is depending on the mercy of the Supreme Lord. It's not that devotee is confident on his practice of Krishna consciousness, but devotee is more confident on the mercy of the Supreme Lord. Venudhari Prabhu, can you read this quote?
Yes, Prabhuji. Hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord is itself an act of piety. By hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord, one becomes cleansed of all undesirable things, and then one's devotion becomes fixed upon the Lord. At this stage, the devotee acquires the Brahmanical qualifications, and the effects of the lower modes of nature, passion and ignorance, completely vanish. The devotee becomes fully enlightened by virtue of his devotional service, and thus he comes to know the path of the Lord, and the
So Prabhupada is telling that a devotee should not just continue practicing sinful activities and simply pray at the end. This is not the meaning of this verse. Meaning of this verse is we try our best to engage in hearing, chanting, and doing devotional practices. And then we pray to the Supreme Lord at the end of everything. My dear Lord, you know my history. Whatever sinful actions are there from time immemorial, please cleanse them. I tried my best to come to you. Now you take care of me. So that is the purpose of this prayer. So like that, this is a very beautiful section of Isopnishad. I request devotees to kindly read it once more. My health is failing. I am on antibiotic, not able to speak much. So I take your permission for today, but please study these verses once more and you can write the questions. So tomorrow when we start with questions and then we take forward from there. I beg forgiveness. Today my health is not allowing me to speak further. Hare Krishna. So Prabhupada
Thank you,
ki
Prabhu.
jai.
That was it.
Isopnishad ki
Thank you,
jai.
Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.